My stepdad installed a camera pointing at my bedroom to protect me from our neighbor. And the moment I realized where it was really aimed, I knew something was very wrong. Before I tell you how this ends, tell me one thing. Where are you watching from right now? Because if you've ever trusted the wrong person, this story is going to feel uncomfortably familiar. The camera appeared one afternoon while I was at school. When I got home, it was already bolted high on the garage wall, angled down the side of the house. At first glance, it looked like it was watching the alley behind us. That's what Carl said it was for. That's what my mom believed. But when I stood in my bedroom and looked out the window, my stomach dropped. The lens wasn't watching the alley. It was watching me. I shifted left. The lens followed. I stepped back. It adjusted again. That was the moment my childhood stopped feeling safe. Carl noticed my expression and smiled, slow and reassuring. He said it was for my protection. He said the man across the street wasn't right. He said predators hid in plain sight. And when he said that, his hand rested on my lower back just a little too long. I remember freezing, not because I was scared yet, but because something in my body knew before my mind did. That night, Carl knocked on my door after my mom went to bed. He sat on the edge of my mattress and explained, in detail no kid should ever hear, what men like our neighbor supposedly did. He talked about watching, waiting, patience. He said the camera helped him sleep at night. What he didn't say was why he seemed to enjoy these talks so much. I lay there nodding, staring at the glow from the camera's red indicator light reflecting faintly on my wall. And as Carl kept talking, I realized something that made my chest tighten. He wasn't warning me. He was teaching me to be afraid of the wrong person. The rules started the next day. Curtains had to stay open. My door couldn't be locked. Sleepovers were canceled. Walks to school were forbidden. Carl said predators adapted, so protection had to adapt faster. And every time I tried to push back, he reminded me how dangerous the world was. How lucky I was to have him watching. I tried telling my mom. She was folding laundry, barely looking up. I told her Carl came into my room at night. I told her the camera followed me. She sighed like I'd interrupted something important and said I was being dramatic. She said Carl loved me like his own. She said safety sometimes felt uncomfortable. And then she hugged me, quick, awkward, and sent me to do homework. That was when I understood something terrifying. I was alone in a house full of adults. The neighbor Carl warned me about lived directly across the street. His name was Mr. Harlan. According to Carl, he was dangerous. But according to my own eyes, he was cautious. He avoided kids. He crossed the street when families passed. When the school bus dropped us off, he went back inside. He didn't wave. He didn't stare. He didn't smile. But there was one thing he did that didn't make sense. Whenever Carl took me somewhere alone, ice cream, the park, errands, Mr. Harlan suddenly needed to be outside. Not watching. Just present. Fixing a fence. Checking the mailbox. Like he was making sure someone saw us leave together. That detail stayed with me. And a week later, everything escalated. I reached for the curtains one afternoon, and Carl grabbed my wrist hard enough that I cried out. His fingers dug in. He told me I was undoing his protection. When he let go, the bruise bloomed almost instantly. Purple, angry, undeniable. I stared at it in the mirror that night and realized I didn't have months. I didn't even have weeks. I had maybe 2 days. That night, Carl came into my room again. He'd been drinking. He accused me of tempting danger, of confusing him. I locked myself in the bathroom until he left, my heart pounding so loud I thought the camera could hear it. When I finally crawled into bed, I didn't sleep. I just counted seconds, watching the red dot on my wall. By morning, I'd made a decision that scared me more than staying. I wasn't going to the police. Carl coached their kids. I wasn't going to my mom. She'd already chosen. I was going to the one person Carl told me never to trust. I waited until my mom left for work. I slipped on a hoodie to cover the bruise and crossed the street with my hands shaking so badly I could barely knock. When the door opened, I almost ran. But Mr. Harlan stepped back immediately, putting space between us, his eyes going straight to my arm. He didn't touch me. He didn't ask leading questions. He just said, very quietly, "Do you want to come inside or do you want me to stay here?" That was the first time an adult gave me control. I stepped inside, and before I could explain everything, he said something that made my stomach drop. "I've been worried this would happen," he said. I hadn't told him anything yet, and right then, I realized two things at the same time. Someone had been watching me all along, and it wasn't the camera. I hadn't told him anything yet, and somehow he already knew. That realization hit me harder than the bruise on my arm. My first instinct was to run, because adults who know too much are usually the most dangerous. But Mr. Harlan didn't move closer. He didn't even lower his voice. He just nodded toward a chair near the door and stayed exactly where he was, like he was afraid of crossing an invisible line. "I'm not guessing," he said, reading my face. "I've been paying attention." I sat, every muscle tight, my eyes glued to the door in case Carl appeared behind me. My heart was racing, not because I trusted this man, but because part of me already did, and I didn't understand why. Mr. Harlan went into the kitchen and came back holding his phone, but he didn't point it at me. He set it face down on the table and slid it away. "Before you say anything," he said, "I need you to know something. I won't touch you. I won't record you. And I won't tell you what I think happened. You tell me what you want to tell me, or you leave. Either way is okay." No adult had ever given me an exit before. I rolled my sleeve up without thinking. The bruise was darker now, spreading like ink under my skin. Mr. Harlan inhaled sharply, then stopped himself. He didn't swear. He didn't gasp. He just nodded once, like this confirmed something he'd already feared. "That's new," he said. "The color means it's less than 24 hours old." I stared at him. "How do you know that?" "My sister's a pediatric nurse," he said. "Child advocacy. Different county. She taught me what to look for after." He stopped, choosing his words carefully. "After I didn't look hard enough the first time." That sentence hung in the air unfinished. I didn't ask what he meant. I wasn't ready to know yet. He asked if I felt safe going home. I said no. He asked if anyone else knew about the camera. I said just my mom. He asked if I wanted to call the police. I shook my head, so hard my vision blurred. He knows them. He knows everyone. Mr. Harlan didn't argue. He just nodded again, like I'd passed some kind of test. "Then we do this the slow way," he said. "And we do it right." He explained the plan in pieces, never all at once. He said people like Carl didn't panic when accused, they panicked when exposed quietly. He said reputation collapses faster than anger. And he said something else that stuck with me. "Predators don't expect patience," he said. "They expect fear." I stayed at his house for less than an hour. He insisted on that. Any longer, and Carl would notice. Before I left, he handed me a small notebook and told me to write everything down. Times, words, feelings, no interpretations. Just facts. He said memory fades under pressure, but ink doesn't. When I got home, Carl was already waiting. He smiled when he saw me, but his eyes flicked immediately to my sleeves. "You were gone a while," he said casually. Too casually. My stomach tightened. I shrugged like I didn't care. I'd practiced that in the mirror. He watched me the rest of the night, asking questions that sounded normal but felt sharp around the edges. "Where did you go? Who did you see? Did anyone talk to you?" I answered carefully. Too carefully, maybe. That night, I heard him outside my room. Not coming in. Just standing there. The camera's red that moved slightly on the wall, adjusting. Watching. The next morning, the kindness started. Carl made breakfast. Complimented my hair. Told my mom he was worried about me and thought I might need help. Therapy help. The kind of help where someone else tells you you're confused. He said he had a great recommendation. Someone discreet. Someone he trusted. When he said that, my hands went cold. I crossed the street again that afternoon with my notebook hidden under my jacket. Mr. Harlan didn't look surprised to see me. He looked concerned. I told him about the therapist. He exhaled slowly. "That's him trying to get ahead of a story," he said. "Which means he knows something's shifted. What do we do?" I asked. "We speed up," he said. "But not loudly." He showed me things then. Not all of them, just enough. Timestamp photos of the camera adjusting. Audio from his backyard, picking up Carl's late-night lectures through the open window. Logs from the camera's public network access that didn't match Carl's explanation. Patterns I hadn't noticed because I was too busy surviving. "None of this is illegal by itself," he said. "That's why it works. But together, it tells a story." My phone buzzed. A text from my mom. "Carl says you've been acting distant. Is something wrong?" I stared at the screen, my chest tight. Mr. Harlan watched my face change and said something that scared me more than the evidence. He's going to try to look like the hero, he said, which means he's about to put himself on a stage. 2 days later, Carl announced a neighborhood safety meeting. Flyers appeared, emails went out. He framed it as concern. Cameras, kids, awareness. He asked me to sit beside him when he talked. That was the moment I knew the trap was almost ready. The night before the meeting, Mr. Harlan's sister called. I listened as she explained exactly what would happen next, if we timed it right. She said jurisdiction mattered. She said documentation mattered more. And she said something that made my throat tighten. Once this starts, she said, you don't get to stop it halfway. The morning of the meeting, Carl hugged me in front of everyone. Told them how proud he was. Told them how scary the world had become. I felt his hand press lightly into my back, steering me, owning the moment. But across the street, I saw 2 cars pull up that didn't belong to any neighbor. They didn't have logos. They didn't have flashing lights. And when their doors opened, I realized Carl had finally invited the wrong audience. Because the people stepping out weren't there for a meeting. They were there for him. And Carl was still smiling. Carl didn't notice them at first. That was the thing that almost made me laugh. Except nothing about this felt funny. He was too busy performing. Too busy talking about community vigilance and protecting our children, while his hand rested heavy on my shoulder like a badge of ownership. I felt it tighten when he noticed my breathing change. You okay, champ? He asked, smiling for the crowd. I nodded. The lie slid out easily. I'd had practice. The 2 unfamiliar cars stayed parked across the street while neighbors gathered. No one from the meeting approached them. No one waved. They just sat there, engines off, windows up, watching Carl. He launched into a speech, talked about how predators hide in plain sight, about how good men had to step up because authorities are slow. Every word felt rehearsed, polished. I realized he'd been planning this long before I ever crossed the street to Mr. Harlan's house. Then he did something I didn't expect. He pointed at me. This is why I installed the camera, he said loudly. Because I love this kid. And because some people, his eyes flicked, just briefly, toward Mr. Harlan's house, aren't what they seem. The air shifted. I felt it. So did everyone else. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Heads turned. Mr. Harlan stood near the edge of his driveway, hands visible, posture calm. He didn't react. That somehow made Carl angrier. You see, Carl continued, voice warm but sharp underneath. Children don't always understand danger. Sometimes they're drawn to it. That's when one of the car doors opened. Just one. A woman stepped out. Mid-40s. Plain clothes. No badge visible. She didn't rush. She didn't interrupt. She simply leaned against the hood and watched Carl like she was timing something. Carl noticed her then. His smile faltered for half a second before snapping back into place. Looks like we have a guest, he joked. You here for the meeting? She didn't answer. The second car door opened. A man this time. Same calm movement. Same lack of urgency. Carl cleared his throat. Can I help you? The woman finally spoke. We're just listening. Something in her tone made my skin prickle. Carl laughed too loudly. Well, pull up a chair. We will, the man said. In a minute. That's when Carl looked at me again. His fingers pressed harder into my shoulder. Not enough for anyone else to notice. Enough for me to feel the warning. Why don't you go inside? He murmured through his teeth. You don't need to hear this grown-up stuff. I didn't move. That hesitation, that tiny act of resistance, changed everything. Carl's hand slipped from my shoulder. He straightened, smoothed his shirt. Actually, he said, raising his voice again, maybe now's a good time to address some rumors. My stomach dropped. He turned toward Mr. Harlan. Some people have been spreading very concerning lies about me, about my intentions, about my family. The woman by the car tilted her head slightly. Carl continued, I think it's important for this community to know the truth before false accusations ruin lives. The man checked his watch. Carl Morrison, the woman said suddenly, clear and loud. Before you continue, we need to ask you a few questions. Carl froze, just for a heartbeat. About what? He asked, smile stiff. About the camera, the man said. And what it's actually recording. Every eye snapped to the side of my house. Carl laughed again. It's a security camera. I already explained. We know, the woman said. We've seen the feed. Silence crashed down hard enough to hurt. Carl's face drained of color, so fast it was like someone pulled a plug. That's impossible. No, the man said calmly. What's impossible is pretending you didn't know it was accessible from an unsecured network. Carl took a step back. Then another. I want to see badges. The woman reached into her jacket, but instead of flashing metal, she pulled out a folded document. Court order, she said. Signed this morning. My heart pounded, so loud I was sure everyone could hear it. Carl looked at the paper, then at the crowd, then at me. Something ugly twisted behind his eyes. You did this, he hissed under his breath. You ungrateful little. Careful, the man warned. That's being recorded too. Carl's mouth snapped shut. The woman continued. We're not arresting you. Not yet. We're asking you to come with us voluntarily. I'm not going anywhere, Carl said, voice shaking now. This is harassment. That's fine, she replied. Then we'll do this here. She nodded toward the man. He pulled out a tablet. The screen lit up. I recognized my bedroom instantly. Gasps erupted around us. The camera angle was wrong. Too low. Too intimate. Audio crackled to life. Carl's voice, soft and instructional, explaining things no child should ever hear. My knees buckled. Mr. Harlan moved closer, just enough to block my view without touching me. Carl shouted, That's edited. That's fake. The woman didn't look at him. She looked at the crowd. This footage has been verified by 2 independent analysts. Carl lunged toward the tablet. The man stepped back. And that's when Carl ran. He didn't make it far. The second the cuffs snapped shut, the crowd exploded, shouting, crying, disbelief crashing into denial. Someone yelled that it had to be a mistake. Someone else started sobbing. My mom pushed through the people. She stared at Carl, then at me. Her face didn't show fear. It showed anger. What did you do? She demanded. Before I could answer, Carl twisted his head toward her and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, she's lying. They coached her. She's sick. My mom believed him. I saw it happen in real time. The woman looked at me gently. We need to take you somewhere safe. My mom stepped forward. You're not taking my child. That's when the man said something that made the world tilt. Ma'am, he said, we also have reason to believe you knew. My mom's mouth opened. Nothing came out. The woman turned to me. Do you want to go with them? She asked, nodding toward Mr. Harlan. Or with us? My chest burned. Behind me, Carl screamed my name. In front of me, 2 paths opened, and I knew whichever one I chose would destroy something forever. I took 1 step forward, and the sirens started. The sirens didn't mean rescue the way I'd always imagined. They meant separation. They meant adults moving fast while my body stayed frozen, stuck between the life I knew and the truth that had just detonated in front of everyone. The woman gently placed a hand near my elbow, not touching, just close enough to guide if I chose it. My mom grabbed my wrist. Hard. You're not going anywhere, she snapped. They're manipulating you. You don't understand what you're doing. I looked at her hand around my arm. I'd felt that grip before. Not violent, just controlling enough to remind me who decided things. Behind her, Carl was on his knees now, yelling that this was all a setup, that the footage was fake, that Mr. Harlan was obsessed, that I was confused. He sounded smaller than I'd ever heard him. Desperate. Cornered. The woman leaned down, so only I could hear her. I need you to tell me what you want. No one else. My mom tightened her grip. I pulled away. That was it. That was the moment. I want to go with them, I said, my voice shaking but loud enough. The sound my mom made wasn't grief. It was fury. After everything we've done for you? The man stepped between us calmly. Ma'am, please step back. She didn't. You're tearing my family apart. No, the woman said evenly. The truth did that. They led me toward the car. I didn't look back at Carl. I couldn't. I didn't want his face burned into my memory, any more than it already was. As the door closed behind me, I saw Mr. Harlan standing across the street. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. He just nodded once, like he was saying you did it. The ride was quiet. They took me to a hospital first. Documentation, they said. Photos. Exams. Gentle voices. I stared at the ceiling tiles and counted them while strangers confirmed what I'd lived with in silence. After that came questions. Real ones. Not traps. Not accusations disguised as concern. They let me stop when I needed to. They brought water. They believed me. That alone felt unreal. Carl didn't make bail. When the footage went public, carefully edited, court-approved, the neighborhood imploded. People who'd praised him deleted posts. Parents who'd waved at him crossed the street. The safety meeting became a punchline no one laughed at. My mom tried to call. I didn't answer. Child Services placed me temporarily with my aunt in another county. She cried when she saw me. Not performative tears. Real ones. She apologized over and over for not seeing it, for not asking more questions, for trusting my mom. I didn't comfort her. I didn't have to. Carl's trial took months. Evidence piled up. Not just mine. Other footage. Other kids. Patterns no one wanted to notice until they were undeniable. My mom testified. She said she didn't know. The jury didn't believe her. She wasn't charged the way Carl was, but she lost custody permanently. Supervised contact only if I ever wanted it. I didn't. Carl was sentenced on a Thursday morning. 22 years. No early parole. When the judge read it out loud, Carl turned and looked straight at me. Not angry anymore. Just hollow. I felt nothing. That scared me more than hate ever could. Mr. Harlan moved 6 months later. Before he left, he came by my aunt's house. Stood on the porch like he always did. Hands visible, respectful distance. You saved yourself, he said. I just kept the light on. I hugged him. Carefully. Briefly. On my terms. I'm older now. I still flinch at red lights blinking in dark rooms. I still hate the word protection when it comes from the wrong mouth. I still write things down, even when nothing bad is happening. But I sleep with my door open. I choose who gets close. And I know now that monsters don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they look like heroes who want applause. And sometimes the person everyone warned you about is the only one who tells the truth. Before you click away, I want to know, what would you have done in my place? Would you have spoken up sooner or stayed quiet to survive? Drop your answer in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more real stories where the truth finally comes out. The next story is already queued, and it's even more intense.